Hmm. My heart is just so full. And I'm just so grateful. I'm so grateful. So I am here to talk about the theme for August. And as you can see, the theme for August is living everyday wonder, nature. The topic for today is naturally divine. Naturally divine. Naturally. The founder of Science of Mind, Ernest Holmes, wrote, "There is that within every individual which partakes of the nature of the universal wholeness. That is the meaning of the word Emmanuel. The meaning of the word Christ. There is that within us which partakes of the nature of the divine being. And since it partakes of the nature of the divine being, you are divine. Let's affirm together. My true nature is divine. Thank you. And my job's not finished because I am going to reintroduce the most beautiful, the most amazing, the most full of love, teacher, wise, orator, Reverend Kathleen.
Thank you so much, Jen. I loved how you read that, so we could just savor every word. It was beautiful. Thank you, Jen. Love this new stand. And Dan made a little extra thing to lift it up for me so I could have this really close to me. So thank you, Dan. All right, so I'd like to begin with a story. This is a story of a mother who noticed that her son was drawing a picture. And so she said, "Well, what are you drawing, dear?" And he said, "Well, I'm drawing God." And she says, "Oh, honey, God is infinite, and God is the divine spark in you and everyone, and really, truly, nobody knows what God looks like." And so the child, without even looking up at her, said, "Well, they will in a minute." I think, the wisdom of children, right? Because what is the truth? I love what Ernest Holmes says about this. He says that God clothes itself in creation. The universe is the body of God. So everywhere we look, I'm looking at all of you. Everywhere we look, we see God. God in all of its expressions. Whether it is we humans, whether it is mountains, beautiful landscapes, plants, animals, it's all God. Snakes, yes, it's all God. Every little bit of it. Matthew Fox had something wonderful to say. He talked about the Christ nature, that perfect idea, which stands for the perfect idea in the mind of God, is present in every single atom in the universe. And so everything's made up of atoms. That Christ, that perfect idea in the mind of God of everything, is contained in our very atoms. Actually, there's an essence behind all of those atoms too, is the way I look at it. And so everything then is naturally divine. And there's been a misconception, I believe, over the ages where there was an idea that there was the divine and there was the human. And so my intention today is totally dispel that idea once and for all, because our human nature is our divine nature. It's one and the same. And so can we all let go of that other idea? Because that's separation. That there's, that old idea that the human is in sin and the divine, is the holy. And so we want to let go of all that old paradigm, and understand that we are holy. We walk on holy ground. We are holy. There's no separation. So today then the focus is, of course, is on owning that divine nature of ours, and releasing all of the ideas that don't coincide with that. So the first thing I wanted to talk about was shared DNA. And then I'll be talking about social conditioning. And then we'll be talking about our divine nature. So our DNA. Did you know that 99.9% of the DNA of humanity is shared? So look around at all the unique expressions of God and say to yourself, we share 99.9% of the same DNA. Okay. Now, the thing is, I know the mind goes to, well then, why are we all so different? Well, one reason, one idea, is that social conditioning. So the environment in which we grew up, the beliefs that we picked up from our families, our cultures, our school, our places of worship, all of those ideas that we picked up became our beliefs. And, when we're young, we're so impressionable. Apparently our subconscious mind is just like wide open and taking it all in. And so that's called social conditioning. And there are those who believe that something like 80% of social conditioning is out of alignment with who we are in truth and what life is in truth. So there's this great undoing that we're constantly in the process of, is letting go of all those false concepts and instead aligning ourselves and connecting with the truth of our being, our divinity. So Jesus taught, it is done unto us as we believe. So those beliefs that we adopted, we'd say of our tribe, get played out. Our beliefs show up in our lives. Louise Hay, Ernest Holmes, and others have demonstrated how thought patterns show up in the body temple, and then how we can remove them by releasing the beliefs that are behind that, and by reaffirming the truth of our being. Beliefs, it's interesting that the power of belief to show up as something like that, something in the physical body. I was actually looking online because I had dropped a pan on 2 of my toes. And then I had another couple of toes. Now, we were doing a lot of hiking, but this was even before the hiking. But anyway, I decided I knew that there was some sort of a philosophy on what each toe stands for. So I looked it up online. And, and sure enough, it gave me a lot of information about things for me to focus on and change and shift in my consciousness. So to me, it's just so amazing. And then, this is actually a whole science that you can go to college and you can learn. If a certain toe is this shape, it means this. The tendencies are it means certain things. Beliefs, it is done unto us as we believe. Very, very interesting stuff. So those beliefs that we buy into and that come about because of the way we interpret things, the meaning that we give it, forms this whole belief structure that demonstrates and outpictures as our lives. And then they get reinforced by habitual thought patterns that keep arising up out of our subconscious mind. And then if we just go along with those thought patterns and just say what we think, just as the thought arises, we just put it out there, we continue the cycle, because it manifests. And, we're doing this complaint-free world process in Michelle's class, a 21-day letting go of, and it's becoming aware of, too. I just caught myself complaining this morning, so I switched. I'd gone for 7 days, and I had to switch. But anyway, the good thing is about being aware of what's coming, not in our thoughts, but also what's coming out of our mouths, and doing something about it, and learning to take a breath before we say anything. So Jesus put it this way. He used the term or the sentence, seek and you shall find. The universal principle, it means what your mind seeks, in other words, what we focus on, it will find. It will manifest in our lives. We'll find it. Have you ever been aware of yourself focusing on something and that's what continues to show up? And if you stop that habit, then it no longer is showing up in your life anymore. And so that's a very powerful thing to know. So any type of process that comes up out of the subconscious mind that looks like complaining becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Fortunately, there is something called the divine urge. That divine urge within us that wants to transcend all of that. That divine urge that will liberate us from those thought patterns. And so I love, love, love what Richard Rohr said. He said, mature religions, and now some scientists, say that divine DNA is in all creatures. So rather than look at DNA as something that limits us, it is full of different combinations that can come together and create we can actually remold our personalities. We can change our beliefs and have a different experience in life. So our DNA, it's time to look at our DNA as divine. It's how we use it, and we've learned from Bruce Lipton that you can either activate it or deactivate different genes according to your belief. He calls it the biology of belief. Beliefs actually activate certain genes. So the genes are there, they're available, and they can work in a lot of different complex ways. But it is truly the spirit essence of us that determines what our beliefs are ultimately. We can release beliefs that don't serve us and adopt new beliefs. And that's the beauty of our teaching. So we are hardwired, he writes, for the big picture, for transcendence, for ongoing growth, for union with ourselves and everything else. We are hardwired to transcend the social conditioning. We are hardwired to express our divine nature. That's why we're here, right? Because we know that. We have a knowing that this is our truth and this is our reality. So our divine nature, I love what Ernest Holmes writes, and this is in The Essential Ernest Holmes. He says, incarnated in each one of us is not only an incarnation of the living spirit of the cosmos, but a unique presentation of the cosmic whole. There's our uniqueness again. And Eric Butterworth adds to that. He also talks about our uniqueness, our divine uniqueness. He said, and the divine instant, the divine intent, active as you, has one desire. Listen to this. To express expansively and creatively its uniqueness. This is your spiritual destiny. This is your spiritual destiny, to express and expand your divine uniqueness. So, as we liberate ourselves from social conditioning, as we activate the latent talents and abilities of our divine DNA, then we begin to unfold our divine nature more and more and more. It shows up more and more. And that divine nature is perfection. And some people get really tripped up on this word perfection because we look around and we say, okay, we look at the news particularly, okay, where's the perfection? Where's the perfection? Well, the Aramaic word, and I thank Rocco Errico and Dr. Lamsa for cluing me into this, is the true meaning of the Aramaic word that was translated into perfection actually means all-inclusive. That's why I like to say all-inclusive love instead of perfect love, because I really, it's about inclusion. It includes all possibilities. It's whole. It's complete. And so when we say perfect, I'd like us to do a little retranslation in our own minds of all inclusive. You got that? Say that out with me. All inclusive. So all inclusive love. Perfect is what perfect love means, including everyone and everything in our hearts. It also means, like I said, it means unlimited possibility and potentiality. And so it's the realization then that this entire presence called the divine allows for all kinds of possibilities as we explore our divinity. And that means we can explore separation. We can explore destructive thinking and behaviors. And yet, underneath all of that is our true, unbroken wholeness of love, beauty, harmony, wonder, wisdom, intelligence, and the creative capacity to change our outlooks and change our lives. It's all inclusive. Thomas Merton wrote what it was like to wake up to his divine nature and the divine nature in all. This is a oneness consciousness revelation. He said, I suddenly saw the secret beauty of their hearts, talking about everybody he came in contact with, the depths of their hearts, the core of their reality, the person that each one is in the eyes of the divine. If only they could see themselves as they really are. Look around. If only everyone could see themselves the way they really are. And this is what he goes on to say. If only we could see each other that way all the time, there would be no more war, no more hatred, no more cruelty, no more greed. I suppose we would fall down and worship each other. Feel that. And so there is this beautiful tribe in South Africa. I want to illustrate this, I think, in action, this idea of acknowledging the divine. They're called the Babemba tribe, South Africa. And they have a forgiveness practice that restores all to seeing the divine in each other. So when a person acts irresponsibly or unjustly, all work ceases, and every man, woman, and child in the village gathers in a large circle around the accused individual. Then each person in the tribe speaks to the accused in the center and recalls all of the things that they remember about them that demonstrate their divinity. So in great detail, all of their positive attributes, all of their good deeds, all of their strengths, all of their acts of kindness are recited carefully and at length. So this can sometimes last for a few days, if necessary. But the idea is to get a shift, not only in the person in the center to support that shift, but to support the shift in the entire tribe, so that when they are complete, all they see is the goodness and the divinity in each other. And then there is a joyous celebration, and the individual in the center is invited back into the tribe. Isn't that beautiful? Yes, like our power of 8. Yes, for sure. We had 16 people in the power of 8 last week. It was amazing. and some miracles happened for sure. So I'll let those who had those miracles share them with you. So what I'd like to say in ending this then is that as newly emerging universal humans, that's the next evolution of humanity, that realization that our divinity and our humanity are one and the same, and that we live from that place of seeing the divine, not only in each other, but in all of nature, so that we are coming from a place of serving nature by understanding what nature truly is. It's the expression of the divine. It is, as Ernest said, God clothes itself in creation. The universe is the body of God. We're looking at the body of God everywhere we go, when we walk in nature, when we're with each other, or when we're in this room. It's all part of the body of God. So there are many examples of universal humans. Look around you. We have a lot of people. Actually, this whole room is gathered because we are standing and growing and emerging as universal humans. We get that there's something going on here, a great awakening, and our hearts are calling us to be a part of it and to do our part in it. Universal humans are optimistic visionaries, innovators, and very good stewards of the planet, who care for the planet with compassion. Optimist Daily, I love Optimist Daily, is full of the stories of universal humans. The ocean cleanup projects that are ongoing, the clean energy innovations and installations, the green laws that are taking place in different communities all over the planet, the rewilding projects that are taking place all over the planet, where natural spaces are encouraged and supported, and animals that have been killed in certain areas, like the wolves in Yosemite, have been reintroduced, and then you start seeing the balance in nature coming back into play. These are the universal humans of our kind that are emerging and doing their part to make a difference in this thing that we call nature. And so my invitation this week to support the emergence of our divine nature is by eliminating ear pollution. You know what I mean by ear pollution? It's the reason why I moved this over. That means to eliminate complaining, criticizing, and gossiping. It's to eliminate that from our way of showing up. And so as we do that, we are eliminating ear pollution and also the pollution of our own minds and hearts. And so what I'd like, so that's part of it. And so I invite everybody in this room to get the book, A Complaint-Free World. It's powerful. The work of Will Bowen has been going on for 2 decades. 2 decades ago, when he first came out and he was on Oprah and the Today Show and all of that kind of thing, he, is when I first came in contact with it and introduced it to the congregation back in those days. And it took me, 4 months or something, but I finally got through the 21 days. So here I am again, and I'm realizing how by listening to news and things like that, I've gotten caught up in some of the old patterns. So what I'm doing now then is redoing it, recalibrating myself back into a positive focus. Because it does make a difference. Remember, our thoughts create. I want to be a beneficial presence. I want my thoughts and my words to manifest good and only good to the best of my abilities. Now, here's the thing, and Michelle goes over this over and over again. Okay, if we get to 7 days like I did, and we have to shift it over to the other arm, we don't want to get down on ourselves. We want to say, oh, I noticed it. I noticed that I did that. Because the more you notice it, the more you're able to stop it the next time around. And so it's not about getting down on yourself because you're not doing it, the 21 days immediately, but it's about breaking a habit, a way of expressing ourselves. And he said the interesting thing is if you continue with it long enough, it'll clear up your thinking as well. Because remember, thoughts arise. They arise up out of the subconscious mind. And then it's up to us to decide what to do with them. Do we want to put them out there and remanifest them? Or do we want to say, I see that thought. I don't want to go there. And replace it with something new, with something positive. So we can replace it with spiritual truth for the highest and fullest outcome. And so I'd like to do that now with this adaptation of a prayer from Ernest Holmes. It's in first person. So I'd like you to just take it in and feel it for yourself. I'm going to read it. Let's turn within and close our eyes. So just pretend like these are your words. I am a center of the divine mind, a point of God-conscious life, truth, and action. There is power in this word, and I speak it because it is the truth. There is perfect and continuous right action in my life and my affairs, guided by Spirit. All belief in wrong action is dispelled. This Spirit animates everything that I do, say, or think. Ideas come to me daily to care for our planet, and these ideas are divine ideas. They direct me and sustain me and our planet without effort. I am continuously directed. I am compelled to do the right thing at the right time to say the right word at the right time, and to follow the right course at all times. I give thanks for the power of these words, the power of this focus, understanding there is a universal law that manifests these words in the divine right way, in divine right order, under grace. So I release it to universal law and full and complete trust that it is done. And so let us accept it and affirm it with a powerful yes! And so it is. Namaste, my friends. And I don't know what I did. Oh, there's my mask.